Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, and this morning I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which is healing trauma. Now, most of the time when we think about trauma, we think about a physical injury, and that is true. And we take ourselves off to the doctor or to the hospital, and we have those injuries repaired. But there's another aspect to trauma that we don't often think about, and that is the psychological and emotional trauma that we suffer. And these two can actually get trapped in our bodies. Some of the earlier work that Louise Hay did, in fact, would highlight this different trauma or these different things that can happen to us, and she showed us that. There was ways she used affirmations, in fact, to release that trauma. Now, we need a little bit more than just affirmations, but affirmations are a great place to start. If you've suffered, PTSD, sexual abuse, domestic violence, rape, or anything like that, I would really urge you that you do go and talk to somebody. But there are other injuries that we can associate with, that require us to heal on an emotional and psychological level. And those would be the likes of injuries, a simple car accident. You get a simple tap of a car. It can be anything that leaves you with the feeling of having your house robbed, or anything very simple sometimes can leave us feeling that we have had a trauma happen to us, and we become very upset on an emotional level. We can start suffering from flashbacks, nightmares. It may in fact lead to depression. There are a number of symptoms, and I talk about some of the symptoms, in fact, on the blog, where you can go and you should in fact be talking to a psychologist. You should also have a look and check out some of the other blogs that I've linked into, like that PTSD. In particular, most people think of PTSD as something that only a war veteran would suffer, where in fact, people can suffer from PTSD from the simplest of things. I go into much more detail in the blog about what are some of the things that can cause you to require you to go and heal trauma. So please check that out. Check out the list, have a look. I also talk about where you should go and then consult a psychologist, how it's impacting on your life. Things like having trouble functioning, not being able to hold down your job. You start to suffer from, as I said, PTSD, depression, anxiety, nightmares and flashbacks. You're unable to form relationships, or you're losing interest in relationships, and you're starting to isolate yourself from people in general. Disassociation, or numbing out as it's called. A lot of the times people will do, they will have excessive gaming or movies, but more likely it'll be alcohol use or taking up illegal drugs. So that's not an extensive list by far. So please have a look at the blog for this week, and have a look out then at other blogs that I have linked as well, where we talk about specific types of things like living with an alcoholic, domestic violence, PTSD. Have a look at the blog on depression. There are various blogs there that you can actually link out to. Now, in terms of being proactive, though, and how you can help yourself, and you can help yourself, even if you are seeing a psychologist, they should be able to give you some sort of, program, CBT. They're probably using a DBT, EMDR. There should be a few things that they should be using with you. The list is extensive, and the package should be tailored specifically for you, and not everything works with, the same package won't work with you that might have worked with somebody else. It will be specific All therapy should be like this. It should be specific to you, and you should be in control of that therapy. Not the counselor, not the psychologist. It's you. This is about you and you empowering yourself. Now, how can you help yourself? Well, the obvious would be the basics of self-care. And I do have a blog on that, and I've spoken about self-care in a number of videos. So do go and check them out. But the basics I'm talking about, and a lot of people would start to let go. And if you are, and you know, if you're not getting washed, if you're not getting dressed, if you're not able to get out of bed, then it's time to go see the GP. Very much time to see the GP. But if you start to look after yourself, you know, do your basics, and you can then move on and reduce stress. Now, I did a blog on stress recently, so do have a look at that. There are techniques in there. I give you a whole list of techniques where you can reduce your stress levels, because that is very important. If you have a mental health condition, just like going and taking care of your physical health, taking care of your mental health is equally as important. So if the doctor prescribes antibiotics, you're going to take those antibiotics. You're going to take that cough bottle. You're going to rest up your leg if it's broken. You're not going to start walking on it, take off the cast and start working on it. Well, it's exactly the same with your mental health. If you are being prescribed something by your therapist, or you need to see a GP, or you need to see a therapist, please do so. Because this is very, very, very important for you to see those people and take care of mental health just as much as you would your physical health. So as I was saying, you should reduce your stress levels. Taking up meditation and self-soothing are also important. Again, I have blogs on those and I go into more detail. A thing we haven't discussed before is grounding techniques. Now, Peter Levine's book, he has a number of books, but I have linked out one in particular. It's better to get the book itself, the actual physical books, than a Kindle download, or one of those downloads that you can get, because it comes with a CD, and in that you're actually talked through some of the grounding techniques. Now, one of the very basics, grounding techniques aren't just about recentering yourself and recentering your body. They're also about reclaiming your body. And one of the basic ones that he does is, in fact, when you're in the shower, you're having your shower, or you're in the bath, and to take a sponge or a face cloth and rub your hand. Okay, so you can start anywhere you like on your body. If you're rubbing your face, if you're rubbing your hand, if you're rubbing your arm. And basically doing it, when you rub your hand, say for instance, you would start to say, this is my hand and it belongs to me. And then you would move up and you go, this is my arm and it belongs to me. It's a very simple technique. You would go to every part of your body. This is my chest, this is my face, this is my nose, it could be my ears. You may not be able to actually, for some people, they may not actually be able to do everything in the guided meditation that he goes through, or even when you start to stand in the shower and actually do it as you have your shower, on a daily or every second day basis, that you would do this technique of, as you rub your body or rub the part of your body, that you would actually reclaim that body. And you need to do it on a consistent basis over probably several months to actually get that notion back into your body, that this is, get it into your head, make that connection between the head knowing and the body knowing is very, very important. So it does take time, but that is one of his very simple techniques that he uses. It's a very, very, very effective technique to use if you have suffered any kind of injury at all. Now, in terms of mindfulness, I spoke about the meditation, but in terms of mindfulness, we have something called a body scan in mindfulness. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you do a body scan unless you are training and do a formal training with somebody. When you do body scans, they can actually cause the trauma that is trapped inside your body to be released up, and for you to have flashbacks, nightmares, and have all sorts of anxiety and panic attacks and everything else. So it is very, very, very important to do mindfulness, to do it correctly, and to do a training program. Okay, I cannot stress that how important it is. How important this is, and for the person that is doing it to actually know how to handle trauma. Okay, because when we do mindfulness, we don't actually know what the other person. Somebody could come to you and do an 8-week training program of mindfulness. We don't know what trauma they have had in their lives. So please, if you have had any trauma at all and you go to do an 8-week course, make sure that the person that you're doing it with is qualified to take you on a one-to-one basis and do counselling, and do proper counselling. So I'm talking about somebody that has gone to university, has done the postgraduate training and is very qualified and knows what they are doing. You wouldn't go in and ask the vet to mend your broken leg. They aren't qualified to do that. So this is equally important, that you only use somebody that is qualified to help you. There is a tendency with trauma and the psychological trauma to isolate ourselves. So the thing here is not to isolate yourself. Now, if you find yourself you're isolating yourself, try and ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. If you don't want to go somewhere by yourself, ask somebody to go with you. Introduce yourself to friends step by step. Maybe it's gradual, and maybe you can only do a one-to-one situation with a best friend or somebody you know for a very long time, and you don't want to go into a new situation. That's okay. That's fine. You can do that for a while. Gradually reintroduce yourself to people, make contact with old friends you may have lost touch with, keep up contact with your family. This is very important, as it helps release hormones in the body to help reduce your stress, but also to help to help regulate yourself, to help soothe you. Okay. Now, using exercise. I know I was talking about basic self-care a minute ago, but to actually use exercise, there's a couple of reasons we want to use the exercise. One is you're basically reclaiming your body. This is your body. Okay. And the other part is to help with the freeze, the flight, and the fright aspect that you probably would have suffered during the original traumatic effect. In fact, exercise will help you unstick the nervous system, and that is why you should start even a gentle walk, going out 10-15 minutes, that's all. 10-15 minutes to get started. A gentle walk out the door, just get your body moving. It's to get your body moving again. If you think of the freeze, the flight or the fright thing that happens, for most people we will freeze, and if you see it, look at animals. See the way when they're attacked by predators, they will fly off, but if they're actually then trapped and held in place, they will then play dead. And that is exactly what we do. We play dead, we freeze. Okay, we may have originally fought, we may have taken flight, but we will then freeze. Okay, so you want to shake that off. That's what they do. When the predator loses interest because they think they're dead, the first thing the animal will do, if you look at any of the documentaries, they get up and they shake it off. And that's what we have to do. We have to do exactly the same. So by getting up and exercising, we're actually unsticking that nervous system. Okay? So think about what I've just said. Think about all the different techniques. These are all very proactive techniques, very simple techniques. Nobody's going to put you under pressure to do them. You can do them at your own pace. But if you are finding them difficult, I would highly recommend that you actually go and talk to somebody. Now, a word to helping somebody that's a loved one. All right. If somebody that you love, a family member, a friend, has suffered trauma, there are some very practical ways that you can help them. The first would be, of course, to listen, to just sit and listen. You don't have to say much. You don't have to have the answer. They're not looking for you to have a solution to their problem. You're just there to, in fact, listen. Say nothing and just listen. And then offer them, your love and your support, your kindness, and be patient. Be very, very patient with this person. It's not, in some cases, it isn't an easy road to go get help. It isn't an easy road to go down initially, but it is so worth it if you can get help. You can offer them practical support as well. So if they're having trouble, as I said, if they're having trouble integrating with people, you can help them by going with them to meetings, going with them to meet up with family and friends, go with them to events, to a film, to, yourself, go out, be social, help them to be, to not isolate themselves. But you can also offer practical support like, picking up the kids from school, picking up the shopping, but that would be on a very short-term basis, okay? If it's running for a number of months, I would be encouraging that person to, in fact, go see their GP. And then on to get counselling. Now, with all counselling, with all psychology appointments, you can always self-refer, okay? Always remember that you can always self-refer. You don't need a letter from your GP. The last thing I would say to you is, there's actually a couple of things. Don't pressurize them, okay? You're there to listen. You're not there as their therapist. And the other thing would be to encourage them to get support. And most importantly, don't take the symptoms of the trauma to heart. Okay, if they lash out at you, I'm not saying that you should ever put up with physical abuse from somebody. I'm not saying that you should put up with verbal abuse, but sometimes you're going to have to use your own judgment on this. Things can be said, and not to take it on a personal basis. But don't ever take anything, don't put up with abuse, okay? I'm not saying that, don't ever put up with abuse. But you're going to have to use, as I said, your own judgment on this. And if they're acting out a character and things like that, you're going to have to see, well, do they need help? Is it time to step in? Is it time to get the help of other family members and friends to do an intervention? Don't take it personally. Don't get angry. Don't start. Don't have that. If they get angry, the worst thing you can do is actually get angry with them. They should be going to therapy and learning how to use more appropriate methods to express their anger, because it's not really at you, it's at what has happened to them. And in an awful lot of cases, it can be actually they're angry with themselves. So, don't take it personally. I know that's hard. I really do know that's hard, because it can be, situations can get very personal and things can be said in the heat of the moment. And if you're actually, in a relationship with this person, if it's your husband, wife, partner, then things can be said, and you may in fact need therapy yourself, and you may need therapy for the relationship, and that's okay. Things can get better. Things can get healed. It wasn't your fault what happened to them, and always remember that. Let go of your own guilt of what has happened to your friend or your family member. Let go of that guilt, and just help them to move on. Just try and help them to move on. In saying that, that's going to take time. Just like with a broken leg, it takes a number of weeks or months to heal. Trauma, releasing trauma from the body and healing from those psychological and emotional effects can take time to heal. And again, I would stress, if it is taking way longer than it really should, they should really, really be reaching out to somebody like me, and talking to a psychologist. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of help to you. Check out the blog. It's at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com, and you can check out my Twitter or Instagram or all my social media feeds.